We all go a little mad sometimes. Get you Here's Johnny.
It's all for you! Damn you, maniac!
Hello and welcome to the Horror Hour. It's the place where we discuss, debate, and disagree on all things horror. I'm one of the co-hosts here, Yutaka. Hello. And I'm joined with my fellow co-host, Liam.
Hi.
And then also joined by another co-host, George.
Hello.
And we have a special guest today, which I'm really excited. It's Mera Mangle.
Hi!
Love that. And this look, honestly, it's amazing. All right. So today, hopefully you have all seen the new Scream, but we decided to do another Scream-centric episode, except we are going to rate our top 5 characters of the franchise who are not the main 3 characters. So no Sydney, no Gail, no Dewey. R.I.P. And with that being said, we will not.
Did we say spoiler alert?
I'll put a spoiler alert.
Guess we'll put that in the title.
Yeah.
Yep. And with that being said, though, no honorable mentions because Ben's not here. So it will be top 5. We are going to be cutthroat. All right. So to start off, I'm going to go to George, number 5.
So we're going down in 5 to 1, correct?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. My number 5, because she basically is the reason most of this is happening, is Maureen Prescott. I'm saying this from a perspective, obviously, she's not really, we don't really see her at all. She's basically a picture for most of them, and then we see her ghost in the third one. But I really I was so intrigued by this character and by this backstory of this character. And even though, a lot of people don't like Scream 3, we learned more about her in that one. And I was just like, I would be up for a Paramount Plus series of Maureen Prescott's travels and journeys. And I just think, why not? But I just really, she is pretty much the reason that this all happened. So I thought I had to give her a shout out, and she's there. And so, yeah, I thought go a little bit left field and Maureen Prescott.
I was not expecting that. Okay.
No.
Wow.
I'm here to surprise you.
Well.
All right. Next, I'm going to go to Mira. Who's your number 5?
Well, being that I'm a special guest, even though you said no honorable mentions, I am going to do one.
All right. You are a special guest. That's allowed.
My honorable mention is going to be also related to Scream 3. I'm going to say Parker Posey, Jennifer, just because that movie works because of the camp performance, but that couldn't make my top 5. My number 5 is going to be Randy.
Ooh.
I feel like most people will probably actually put Randy higher, or if you have them on your list, but I like Randy, but and obviously they make my top 5 and they're important to the franchise, and it's a fun character, and it was a very impactful death when they did die in Scream 2.
Oh, that still guts me. I was so mad in the theater. I was like, you can't do that, because Randy was one of my favorites. I couldn't believe they did that.
But it's brilliant that the legacy lives on.
That's true.
I think that helps.
Slightly.
Mm-hmm.
No,
well, it's interesting because my number 5 character is Mrs. Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
She was a great killer. I loved the actress who played her, Laurie Metcalf, but I love the whole persona of Debbie Salt, because that's just a weird name. And I was like, I get where you're going. Sure. But I liked her as a killer, and she killed Randy. So that's, but because of that, I thought, yeah, all right. And she had the know-how, the money, and I mean, and
the motive.
She did. So
the main thing needed.
yes. With that, then let's move on to our number 4. So
wait, Liam didn't get his number 5.
Oh, I didn't say. Oh, see, I've already see. Go ahead.
This is why I have to
Wow. So my number 5 is Stu. Mainly because I just like Jesus
Lillard.
Christ, I forgot his name.
Matthew Lillard.
Matthew Lillard. I love Matthew Lillard, even though I forgot his
Not
name
that
for
much,
some
apparently.
reason. And I just love the performance that he gives in Scream. It's camp. It's very obviously queer, even though it's never said.
Yes.
Like when he's dying on the phone and picks it up. Hilarious. And he's funny throughout the full film. So yeah, that's why I put him at 5.
That's actually a good one. I like that. And I apologize. I forgot to. Oh, sorry about it,
You're
Leo.
not sorry.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go on to number 4. So with that, George, who's your number 4?
My number 4 is your number 5, Mrs. Loomis.
Ooh.
I thought she was such a cool character. And I don't think that she's maybe spoken about enough. Maybe she is, maybe I'm just not seeing the tweets. But I think everyone, obviously, I do love Mickey as well. He's actually one of my, he's not on this list, but I love him. And so, but I think she was such a great character. And it was one that I actually never saw coming when I first watched that film. I was like, oh, this came out of left field, and I loved it. And I loved the twist. And she did a really good job of being crazy. So I went with, Laurie Metcalf, Mrs. Loomis. And that was the first thing I'd ever seen Laurie Metcalf in. And then I went after that and watched a lot of her work, and she's great. So my number 4 is Mrs. Loomis for pretty much the same reasons that you said, Yutaka.
I guess I forgot that Roseanne's really not a thing over there.
I was going to say, Laurie Metcalf's like a staple here in America.
Yeah.
I could see why that wouldn't translate.
Yeah. All right. So then, Mira, who's your number 4?
My number 4 is going to be, I believe it was Liam's number 5. It's Stu. I agree with everything you said. That character could have not worked, but Matthew Lowe's performance really makes it work. Very charismatic, and even though he's playing like this dumb guy, there's depth to it, and that it's like they're playing it with that inner dialogue of Stu longing for Billy in a weird way, yet it's not on the nose. It just feels like you believe this character's motivation for doing this because of being loyal and passionate to his friend. And also, I believe everything he's doing. And it's one of the best killers ever, for sure.
Great. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Stu's a great character.
Even prior to the reveal and all of that, just really is electric throughout the movie. Electric.
Yes. Well, my number 4 character, and I won't forget you this time, Liam. It's one out of left field as well, like where George went, but I'm gonna go with Heather Graham.
Oh.
I know, but here's the thing. I loved when they were showing the Stab film and she was Casey Becker. I mean, clearly she was acting like awful and camp, and I enjoyed it. And I just really, it was so unique because obviously we saw like Tori Spelling, Luke Wilson. So I just thought it was kind of fun that they're getting these other actors and they're playing these parts. And so it's just it was a fun take on seeing what people thought was, the actual, like when they were showing the Stab film, I wanted to actually see that film as well. So that's why I have her down. I just thought it was I always remember it. Let me put it that way too. It's just one that is ingrained in my head for some reason, maybe because I just like Heather Graham, but I just thought it was fun. So it's
it really
random.
Was left field. Was
it was. So who's your number 4, Liam?
Tori Spelling.
My number.
Yes.
My number 4 is Mira's number 5. It is Randy Meeks. I like Randy in the first one. I think Randy is much better in the second one. It is a shame that he died. But it was kind of like he's not part of the Trinity, so kill him.
It upped the stakes.
Now you can even kill the Trinity, so it's fine. And it did. It upped the stakes, so I was fine with it. So that's why I put Randy there, because I liked him in the first one. I felt he got better in the second one, and he was entertaining. And you can probably tell already, I go for the more comedy-based performances.
I love the little cameo in the third one. Like,
Yeah,
that was quite humorous. I mean, still was bummed that he was dead, but you know.
Well, and one thing that he does well in all three of them, even in Scream 3, is a lot of like expedition. What is it called?
exposition.
Exposition dialogue, where in the right hand sometimes doesn't work, and he always made it work, and he always made it seem fun and real, and it worked. Always made it work.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, definitely. Scream wouldn't work without Randy.
Right.
That's actually very true.
From the start.
Literally,
so,
yeah. One of the most vital characters actually to that first movie specifically.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that is why he's at number 4.
Honestly, until the killer reveal, I actually kind of thought he was the killer when I first saw the film. You know, leading up to it, because I was just like, maybe Randy is that fucking crazy. You know? All right. So let's go on to our number 3. George, who you got?
My number 3 is a little lady who actually was technically your number 4, but isn't. I know we're all like mixed together. Mine is Drew Barrymore as Casey Becker. I think she really started that film with a bang, and she was what a lot of people were talking about when it came out. And I just think that even going back now, yes, I mean, the music and the cinematography and the whole suspense of it is what makes it so scary. But her performance as Casey is just still like iconic. Phenomenal. Yeah. And it's just the best. And so I had to, give her a shout out. And I think no one will ever get to be able to do something like that again, I think. So I love her. And yeah, she still gets talked about, and she's iconic. So yes, Casey Becker, real Casey Becker is my number 3.
Right. I mean, yeah, I stand by, there is no better horror opening like Scream. There's just not been one that's captivated or held me in suspense, and then also shocked me, because going into the film, it was a marquee name. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, and 5 movies later, that's her whole scene is probably still the most talked about scene.
Yeah. Legendary. Yeah. So Mera, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is going to be somebody, I think 2 different people had her already. I agree that Mrs. Loomis is one of the best killers. And it is interesting because I always think of her as very underrated, and she doesn't get talked about, yet we were all talking about her. So I think that's great. Yeah, I think that Mrs. Loomis it's one of the best motives. It makes sense. It's a surprising reveal, yet it works. All the dialogue and, again, like explaining everything, Laurie Metcalf does so good at. I believe her. The psychoticness. I think that a lot of times people have a problem with her, the over-the-topness of the scene. I believe that woman. I believe it wholeheartedly. Sometimes that can come off as hokey, and it's real. I see it. Those crazy eyes, I live.
Yes.
It's so good. And the fact that, she's in the entire movie, and it's a character that you would have just never guessed. It's somebody that, just the way Gail was reacting to her, it's just not even registering, but it worked.
Yeah, I agree. She's borderline probably one of my favorite killers, to be honest. The more I think about it. So my number 3, was Mera's honorable mention, because it's Jennifer Jolie. Parker Posey could do no wrong, and her performance was just so spot on. And to see her go back and forth with Gail was hysterical. And also just her where she was scared and she wanted to pout, so she went and jumped in her bodyguard's arms. I was dying. And she was the only character from the third film that I was pissed about dying. I didn't care about anybody else, but I was like, you could have let her live. But she did a great job. And I think, well, I love 3, but I think she just kind of carried that movie, just how she was. So
Agreed.
Liam, who's your number 3?
So I'm keeping it in the Meeks family, and I'm going with our newest person to be on a list, Mindy. Obviously, our first confirmed queer representation, which was amazing. It also helps that the actress herself identifies as queer. The comedy that Mindy provided throughout this new film is top-notch and hilarious. And just the way she played off everyone within the film also really worked. Like we've spoke about it in the spoiler review and another video coming up, but it's with the scene in the basement with Amber.
Love that.
Like,
So good.
Just brilliant. And then obviously at that point, obviously you don't know Amber's the killer, so you do have that, like, is it one of them? Could it be one of them? Like, what's happening here? And then obviously in hindsight, when you're like, oh shit, you probably shouldn't have done that, Mindy. But yeah, like, just loved that. And then the fact that she, spoiler alert, survives. I can't wait to see what they do with this character, because she's just going to be so good going forward. So yeah, she's my number 3. She could possibly go higher in the future if we do obviously get more movies. But after one movie, I put her at 3.
Fair. Okay. All right, George. Let's go to your number 2.
Okay, my number 2 is Mindy. I feel like she's going to be on everyone's list, and we're all going to talk about her. But that's great. I mean, that just goes to show how great after one film somebody can, like, and so recently do it. But yeah, I agree with everything Liam said. She was definitely the standout from the new cast for me. Out of, as again, she obviously was in the film itself. She was my second favorite, obviously minus my girl. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does in the future. And as I said in our spoiler review, if we do get more films, I don't need them focusing on boring ass Sam. I need them focusing on Mindy or Tara. So, and I'm glad that Mera approved. I'm glad that we're on the same boat about Sam.
Well, my number 2, that's funny. I'm actually shocked so far nobody's mentioned her. And she was also so far only in one movie, even though now she's confirmed alive, and that's Kirby. I love the actress, but I thought her entire role as so confident, also the horror nerd, but could still be super hot and sexy, and just the way she carried herself throughout the film, and then had several great moments, like when she's talking to the killer and he's I'm in the closet. No, you're not. That whole, the tension in that scene really works. And then also obviously that other part where she's just sitting there naming off all those movies, and it's just, oh my gosh. And obviously fans have been wanting her, like, we've always wanted justice for Kirby, or confirmation, did she die or is she alive? And so even though she didn't technically appear in this film, and we just got that little YouTube thumbnail, that was enough to be like, oh my God, yes.
Agreed.
If we had done, like, she's my top from Scream 4, but she didn't make my list. But she's the best character in that movie.
Agreed. Yeah. What is your number 2 then? Because
I just realized I skipped. Yep.
My number 2 is George's number 2. It's going to be Mindy Meeks as well. I think that what's so impressive is, just the fact that we all care about that character so much already. I also will say I really love Chad, and I love Tara as well. I think I'm excited to see what they all do going forward too. And I like what they've set up for the other, but the other's just acting wasn't there. Anyway, I think that Mindy is like the biggest breath of fresh air. I think she's like Randy times 10, honestly. Like she's got so much more to her already in the one little bit we saw than we've gotten in since the first movie, from any character. She was so good. You instantly, like, you want to see everything this character does going forward. Like you mentioned, that basement scene is so good. Everything that she gets to do with the dialogue is just brilliant too, and she sells every scene she's in. She's so good. I can't wait. Make it about the twins. Like the sister,
I hope they do that. Oh, I would.
But make sure you give Chad a personality if you do that, though.
That's true.
I liked Chad. Chad didn't have a lot to work
very
with, but I liked
bland.
him. He's also so beautiful, so that was a plus for me.
Well, that does help.
Yes, Mason Gooding is very attractive.
And Cuba Gooding's Junior's son.
I
Who's
know
seen that coming? I was shocked.
So, Liam, now I've skipped, multiple. Who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Kirby.
Yay!
I just love Kirby so much. Again, as obviously it's being gathered from the list, I gravitate towards the characters with comedy in them. And so again, so that's why I love Kirby. She's sarcastic, she's bitchy, she's nice to her friends. And just throughout the whole film, like, she's hilarious. Like, she's got so many funny moments. Like, one that I always think back to is the one when they're in the police station after Olivia and Jill have had the phone calls, and she's like, well, I didn't get a phone call. She's like, does that mean I'm not going to live as long as these two? Like, just the way Hayden Panettiere delivers that line is so funny that, that is why she is my number 2. I just love her.
All the dialogue she does on the sofa too is so good. Her comic timing and all that is so good. Well, that's incredibly convenient.
Also, I need to call out, in every Scream film, there's all these fucking parties and everyone's dying. Like, what is...
And I will say, everyone in Scream 4, those people are all horrible about their friend Olivia, because they move on real quick. They move on that night. They see her dead body and then they're like, okay, let's go. They move on really fast.
And that's like probably, aside from Casey Becker, that's the most graphic like death, I think, in the franchise, just in terms of guts and blood and guts, because that entire room was splattered and her intestines were all like all right. Well. I mean, to be fair, in the film, she had very little, like, I moved on just as quick, but yeah. All right. So not Liam, George, who's your number 1 favorite character that is not the Holy Trinity?
My number 1 is Jill Roberts of Woodsboro, a girl who's lifted all our spirits tonight, an American hero right out of the movies. I love Emma Roberts, and I love the character of Jill Roberts. And let me tell you, she's what I needed in 2011 when she was revealed as the killer. I was like probably the only person in the cinema that was like, this is the most amazing thing to ever grace my screen. I loved how quickly she switched on dime, because I was fully prepared when Scream 4 came out. I don't know about anybody else. I thought this was when he's in a way it was supposed to be, which never took off, the next part of the series. And I thought, okay, they're introducing Jill, and obviously this is what they wanted you to believe. She is going to be the new Sydney. And I was obsessed with the idea, and it probably couldn't have worked, but I would have loved the idea if, say, God forbid, Sydney had died. And I would have loved to have seen the next movie be about Jill and very like, I know what you did last summer, but then the next killer, knowing that Jill was the previous killer and like blackmailing and I think that just would have been such an interesting thing to go. But I mean, we spoke about it earlier, that scene where she throws herself into the wall and throws herself back on, like that's dedication, and I'm there for it, and nobody else, you know. Stu was like, oh look, we're stabbing each other, but she really went there. And that scene again, I mentioned it earlier about when she walks into Sydney's room and she's like, who are you, Michael fucking Myers? Like I just love it. She's just a girl after my own heart. So yeah, my number one is Jill Roberts.
She was a great character, honestly.
Yeah, I think she gets a lot of hate, but I love her. So.
I think Scream 4 gets a lot of hate, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah,
I still enjoy it. So Mera, who's your number one?
My number one is also a killer, and it's going to be the original Billy Loomis.
Ooh.
I mean, Billy is such a good actor. It's still probably, I mean, for me, like still the best killer. Obviously, they're number one, but just that so many lines are so iconic, and a big part of that is the way they're delivered. It's all so good. It's perfect. All the nuances throughout the movie, like you know, after you find out that he's the killer, and all the little things you see along the way. And a big part of that is how they sell it with the acting. It's just, oh, Billy's the one for me. I still would sleep with him.
Hey, yep, same. Skeet has aged very nicely.
Right.
And yeah, go for it. Okay. Yeah. Well, my number one has already been mentioned on multiple occasions, which I think, as somebody had said, it's a testament to that character, and it's fucking Mindy Meeks Martin. I think everybody's already said so many great things about I mean, Jasmine Savoy Brown is, and I say it so much, but is the moment. I mean, point blank period. She is going places, and she made this movie because of all of her different line deliveries. And I think one of my favorites is in the third act, where she's like, man, turn around. Like, that scene was so good. I mean, it was just the comedic timing, but also the way that, yes, she is Randy times 10. And I think she's more blunt in terms of she's just going to say it. And I think some of the stuff she said was even more like, oh my damn. And they're still like, okay, but yeah, you're probably right. I mean, her logic was there, and I don't know. Everything about her character. And yes, same thing. We finally got to see a queer person play a queer role, and it didn't feel like it was there to do that. It just was, you know, just part of her character. I don't feel like it was purposely being like put in your face for, I don't know. I really did enjoy. And I also, maybe it's because I'm a twin, but I did like the relationship between her and Chad. That even though he may have not had the best of personality, I thought the two still worked really well. So that's my number one. So Liam, we'll let you finish this off.
You want to know who? Nancy Drew wants to know who. It's Jennifer Jolie. Like, as Bea said earlier with her honorable mention, like Scream 3 wouldn't work really without Jennifer Jolie, without Parker Posey. So I get it. Scream 3 is probably one of people's most hated, well, not hated, but least liked from the franchise. But I just love Jennifer Jolie as a character. She's so funny. All the way through. She shouldn't have died. Like the way she interacts with Gail is just amazing, because prior to us deciding this list shouldn't include the Holy Trinity, obviously Gail would have been my number one, but Jennifer Jolie still would have been my number two because of the way them two interacted in this movie. It's perfect. It's hilarious. It's acted amazingly. And again, it's another person who's got really memorable quotes from the film, like the Nancy Drew one, and then my lawyer liked that. So it's that is why, because again, it's a comedy role. Even though it's just horror films, I just gravitate towards the funnier side of it. So that's why I'm picking Jennifer Jolie as my number one.
If she wasn't there hamming up every scene, then you would see all the plot, like you would focus on all the plot holes in the movie. You're like, oh, none of this is actually this is weird.
That is very true.
She makes that work. She makes the whole thing work.
And I think everyone's got their favorite line of hers. Like mine is the whole, "You're obsessed with her, and you're obsessed with her daughter." Like she's just brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I guess I am curious then. Who is everyone, just right off the cuff, least favorite character in the franchise?
Oh, Sam Carpenter.
Oof.
Oh, come on.
Damn.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Well, no. George has been pretty vocal about not liking this character.
He has. I would say the one who was cast to play Sydney. Like the recast of Sydney.
Oh, Emily Mortimer. That's the actress.
Yeah.
But I forgot her name. Oh,
I can't remember her
What's her
name.
name?
Oh, I actually liked her, especially when she finally is like, I had to fuck, like when she like lost it, and
I had to fuck that big Milton
to die around secondhand celebrities like you two.
I mean, having one good line doesn't make
it was still pretty funny, especially like her running, and you knew she was gonna die, but still, hey, I'm gonna run down the stairs, but still look up and not pay attention and still keep screaming. I would have to say my least favorite character. It has to be Jerry O'Connell's character from Scream 2, or the love interest, who surprisingly didn't want to actually kill her.
What a disappointment.
Yes. That's it. That was kind of mine. And maybe it's because of that part where he's like, oh, I'm gonna give you my necklace and I'm singing this song. I'm like, all right.
I hate that song.
It was just like that even though it still worked, but I was just like, oh, okay. And then in my head, I was like, I hope he dies. And he did. Mera, who would be your least favorite of the franchise?
I mean, it's hard because there's so many small characters, but in terms of main characters, I'm gonna have to agree with George. Right now, the acting for that particular, there's a lot that she has to do. There's a lot to the character, but my biggest problem, like when she rages out, like that stuff is good, but it's just that the regular dialogue and then just regular interactions, the acting and the look on the face isn't much different than the one I have on mine. Like it's not nuanced or layered enough of a performance for how deep and how important the character is supposed to be. You think about someone like Neve Campbell, where you can see on her face, because she's such a brilliant actress, what she's feeling or what she's thinking in certain moments in these movies without her ever having to say anything. And girl, I still don't know what's going on with Sam. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued going forward because there's potential there, but
yes,
I didn't buy, like, and part of it might be because all the other actors are so good in this movie. I just didn't buy her in some of these scenes, just having regular interactions.
I will say, because this was my takeaway from the performance, but also the character, is that I kind of felt it was muted because she was medicated. Like that's like to me, it was that she was wrestling with the fact of who her father was, and so that's why in multiple times where she's like popping a pill, it just seemed to like it was more about she was, to me, I was like, you're just kind of like a zombie in life. Like you're purposely medicating yourself to numb that. And so that's why I kind of felt there was very little emotion at times, but that's my take. So
to be fair, that was my take as well.
So I get like why some didn't.
Neve Campbell.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. Can you please explain to me your hope? I mean, it's insane. He's actually makes me feel ill.
This I don't like. Okay, Liam, go ahead and have your hot take on this one.
I just don't get Neve Campbell. I just don't get Sidney Prescott. I just don't I don't know why she's there. I don't find her entertaining as a final girl. I find her bland, boring.
Because she's not funny. You like all the comedy people.
Well, yeah, but I like Gail. So I think Gail should be the final girl. I don't think Sydney should.
I mean, Gail technically is too.
She is, but I think it should be just Gail.
Damn. Yeah. Mira, I don't know. He can be replaced. I
just don't think she.
Nev Campbell.
Yes, I will give you in the final of Scream 3, we got the personality from Sidney Prescott. But in Scream 1 and 2, there was no personality.
Nope. Sorry. Absolutely bullshit.
That is like, I don't know if you were watching like dollar store version of Scream 1 and 2 with a different character, but there is so much to unpack with Sidney Prescott, and I refuse to believe that you can't see
I
that.
don't think Scream would work without Sydney or without Nev.
Without Nev, 100%, 1,000%.
Sorry.
Apart from the first two, she's hardly in any of the other ones, and they all work. Oh.
Thank you. Yeah, this is what we needed. This is what Liam needed.
Wow. Liam. Well, we lost our guest because Liam. Oh. Wow.
I just
Nope. You had your say, Liam. I mean, as evident, wow. I don't know what to say. Well, that was entertaining.
Couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. I was offended and appalled at this blasphemous take on Nev Campbell's performance. I should have left on purpose. That's what I should have said. I will not be a part of the horror hour. I am done. Good day.
It's the worst take ever, honestly. I'm
not even sorry.
You should be.
I guess I would say, to give my little intake on that, because I actually see both perspectives, because the character itself, other than the tragedies that happened to her, isn't written to be as interesting as Gail. Gail's also like everything Gail is thinking, she says, and so it makes it very clear her motives. She's a very direct person, and I think that Sydney only works because Nev Campbell is so good at the nuances of the acting. But I could see why Liam would think that way too. Like I disagree, but I also am not mad at it in that way, because I understand the perspective. It's like Gail seems to be more interesting. She's just a more interesting character. I get it.
That's fair. I would say though, with the fifth film, like Sidney Prescott was a badass. Well, her and Gail, because let's just take a moment where they went ahead and just tossed fucking Amber across the island in the kitchen. That was
what I loved about that scene was the way that they almost were like, you could, again, it's good acting. You could see that they were almost like telepathing. Like, we've been doing this, like they both have a stronger actual connection outside of killing people to Dewey, and don't really have a connection other than that. But once it comes time to kill somebody, they have this weird bond, and it really works. You buy it.
Courtney did it all in a very impressive nude pub. So
I don't like that.
Who's really winning?
Well, I guess she was there. I guess all three of them were there because it ends in the hospital. Never mind. Just kidding.
But, well, I mean, we'll give you that, Liam. I
won't.
Oh no. Well, I know. I mean, George likes to believe he's the Sidney Prescott of this of this group. So
when I say, listen, I want to clear the air about this. When I say this, I mean, this is like me being, I'm never serious on this podcast, but I'm being serious right now, is that Sydney Prescott is the character in cinema to me that like, just, I don't know what it is, but she just is my girl, and I relate to her in ways, and that's just why I'm like, so it's not like I want to be this. I mean, hey, I'd always like to be, who wouldn't want to be the one at the end? But when I say, and I'm saying, I just mean for me, that's like more of a deeper meaning thing. But that's why I like it so much. Sorry.
That made me kind of, I started to think you were Richie for a moment.
Richie? Well, the fan. I'm just such a huge fan. Yeah, that's my real motive.
Yes. I mean, but this was a really fun discussion. Thank you, Mera. Thank you to Liam and George. Liam, you're still an awful person for saying that, but we love you. But with that, I just want to say thanks, everyone. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
You have been listening to the Horror Hour. See you next time.